a CNN host recently actually did something that was quite surprising. Frank Sesno was talking with Politico reporter Ginger Gibson about the role of fact-checking organizations like PolitiFact and factcheck.org, right? Now, Sesno had asked Gibson how members of Congress responded when they would get a pants-on-fire rating, which, by the way, is just a hilarious way to put it, but it basically means that, hey, you're lying so much that your pants are on fire. I love that rating. Now, Gibson had actually responded, well, the press secretaries, when it's the other guy who's called out, will blast those out as a press release. Okay, so, you know, if the other guys are wrong, we're more than happy to release that and send it out. That's fine. Now, the host had asked, well, what do you do with that? And this is the amazing part. Ginger Gibson had basically said that, yeah, we pretty much ignore it when it's our guys. We ignore it. So if somebody's called a liar, is exposed in a fact check, and you're the reporter of it, you ignore that? And remember, this is a Politico reporter that's being interviewed by Frank Sesno. Supposed to be a journalist, right? Well, she says, well, we ignore it when it becomes political fighting. As a reporter who covered the Romney campaign and covers the Hill now, these fact checks are great for us because sometimes when the claim keeps getting repeated, we can point to them in a story and say, look, they've been deemed untrue by multiple fact checkers. And I think that line is important. The multiple fact checkers. When it's multiple fact checkers agreeing, we can go on that. Wow. And that's how we use it. That's how we call attention to things. If we're not doing the fact checking, we know not to be true. Now, to me, that's a problem with our media. She's supposed to be a journalist. She's supposed to be doing the fact checking, not relying on outside sources.
Right, of course. That's the point of investigative journalism, is to come up with, find the answers yourself.
That's the point of journalism itself. She's not being a journalist, she's being a stenographer. And that's the whole problem, is they rely on these independent fact checkers, which are like the fact checking places are great, right? Because we got to have some place to get our facts, because we're obviously not getting it from our media. We're not getting it from the so-called fourth estate, right?
Right.
So, and speaking of the fourth estate, what the hell happened to it?
I mean, they can't. They're media theater, so they have to check with people who are actually doing media work to find out what's true or not. The only thing I say is the fact checks are the fact checkers aren't perfect either. So like you gotta it's kind of embarrassing that the media is relying on a source that's imperfect.
Right. It's really surprising just to see the fact that our media does nothing to fact check. Nothing.
It's infotainment. There's no journalism at all required. I mean, it just...
Unfortunately, most Americans don't know that. Why do you think we still have a large amount of people that watch Fox News?
I mean, to be honest with you, CNN is pretty much no different than you and I speaking to each other at the current moment, where we get our facts from real journalists in the free media.
Right.
I go, well, watch CNN. They get all their footage or what information they can. They get it from Reuters or Al Jazeera or
some guy on Twitter who's fucking with them.
But
that's happened a couple of times.
Or a guy that's on a cruise ship.
Here's the latest
full of
tweet
crap.
from Suck Me Deek. That's his name, Suck Me Deek.
Right.
Was his mother named Munch Makuchi?
Munch Makuchi, Muffin Top. Yeah.
Honestly, there's two things in media. One is the fact that they're not that they're being fact checked by the internet a lot is really hurting them. And two, the fact that when they do mess up, like that reporter who reported the 4 Asian pilots, like that also ends up all over the internet. Which, by the way, I've watched that video like 800 times. It's still hilarious to me. It's such a stupid prank. But so they're embarrassing. Like CNN reported that the Wall Street Stock Exchange flooded off of some guy messing with them on Twitter. Like the news organizations are a joke, so they have to get information from wherever they can get it.
But don't you think that they could actually go and do their own fact checking, their own investigative journalism to actually try and,
I mean, they
get
look
the
like
facts?
they look like they
should.
have money, right?
Yeah,
They
they've
look like
got
they have
plenty of
money.
money. And that's the problem. There's so many places now that have shut down their investigative journalist departments, and now they're relying on the internet and so-called fact check sites, which is
Right.
absolute insanity.
Yeah, I think we did a story not long ago about how CNN got rid of their investigative journalism staff completely. It's like, well, they're a news station. What the hell are they going to do without investigative journalists? What is the point of them existing now? In the age of information, it's ironic that, with all the information we have, there's very little truth to be found. You have to sift through all the bullshit in order to get through to the needles of truth.
And then there's the problem with false equivalence.
It's not news. I mean, if you look at it now, it's
theater.
It's theater. It's at the same time, it's like, it's like watching Fox. They're all the same. I mean, it's political commentary, organized political commentary.
Yeah, but the one thing that they can't get away
heavily
from,
partisan.
even if it's political commentary, you still have to operate in the basis of facts.
True, but it's a political commentary. It's heavy in partisanship, and it's mixed with the National Enquirer. They're too busy talking about what the fuck Miley Cyrus is doing. You'd be lucky if you get any real news out of it.
And there was a great story that was done on TYT that was actually misinterpreted by the people who work there about Roger Ailes being interviewed when he said he watched Fox News on mute. The reason he watches Fox, they made it seem like the reason he watches it on mute is because he's a pervert and there's a bunch of attractive women on Fox. But the reason Ailes watches Fox on mute is because Ailes was the manager of Richard Nixon's campaign when he lost that debate to Kennedy. And if you remember, he lost the debate.
Oh, because he was all sweaty and
right. He lost
like
the debate
in the headlights.
Right.
I know where you're going with this. Image matters.
Exactly. He lost the debate on TV, but Nixon won the debate by a mile on the radio. And Roger Ailes learned then, and it still works now because they are the biggest name in cable news. You have to look good in order, as long as you look like you're telling the truth, then people will take you seriously. And that's what the news organizations are doing. That's why they have the million iPads.
It's not just that. If you watch Fox News, I mean, even Don Henley sung about it in a song he created called Dirty Laundry, where he says that I could have been an actor, but I wound up here. I just have to look good. I don't have to be clear. Where these people, if you the reason why Roger Ailes said he watched Fox News on mute, go watch The Factor. O'Reilly, even if you can't hear what the hell he's saying, he's very dominant. He's pointing his finger constantly. He is belittling his competition, and that is what people see: is that this guy's an authoritative figure. He's dressed well. A lot of women on there don't look like your average reporter, and that is how it is. All of it. Go watch Geraldo Rivera. Go watch Sean Hannity. They all come off not making any concessions or any form of doubt. They have a heavy conviction, and they're
never. Yeah, absolutely. Never admit you're wrong. I mean, just watch all the interviews that O'Reilly has had with Jon Stewart, and Jon Stewart nails O'Reilly to the wall, but O'Reilly never admits it. He thinks he comes off, at the end of those interviews like nailed it.
But you should watch, and those interviews actually you could see O'Reilly looks uncomfortable during them. But you could watch President Obama speak on mute and just watch him move and all that, and how he looks at everybody. The whole point is you're supposed to have the image of being in control, and that's what the news is. That's what the news networks are focused on, is looking good and looking crisp and just looking official. That's the entire point.
An absence of uncertainty. You watch the Young Turks, you get Cenk pointing up his hands, no mas, and he says, "Look, this is my opinion. I don't know for certain if this is how it is." And the moment you say that, it's some people, they want the television to be their second Bible. They want Fox News to be their second Bible and tell them what to think and what to do. I mean, it's very much
and people
like that movie
respond
Network from the mid-'70s.
People respond to assertive, extroverted people. It's definitely true. They have the advantage when it comes to public personas. I mean, there are some people that are pro-Gore people that I've talked to that are like that believe that he had a disadvantage because Gore is naturally an introvert, and he doesn't have that dynamic, flamboyant personality.
And you want to punch Al Gore in the face every time you see him. Keep it real. Like, I mean, like, keep it real. Like, I don't want to like actually punch Al Gore, but every time he talks, I want to punch him.
It's like listening to oh hell, what's
it's like
his name?
listening to somebody read
Day Off.
nature
What's his
novel.
name?
Ben
Teacher
Stein.
from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. What's his name?
Ben Stein.
Ben Stein. It's
Ben
like listen to
Stein.
Ben Stein. That's
No,
what
you
listening to
know
Al
what?
Gore's like.
Ben Stein. Okay, listening to Ben Stein is like listening to Ben Stein.
It's like listening to Al Gore. It's the same
You
way.
can't get worse. You can't get worse than that. Especially like even if you can get past the voice and the monotone, kind of, get some clear eyes or something like that. Bueller. Even if you can get past that and actually listen to the things that he says, you're like, dude, you're a fucking moron.
Right.
I hate everything that you have said. Have you ever watched him on Fox News?
Yes.
He maybe said one thing that
got
I
kicked
agreed
off.
with, and that's you need to tax the rich a little bit more.
He got
I was
kicked off.
like,
He's not
oh
allowed
dear
back there.
God. I can't
And then
believe
wasn't
he
he
said
like-
that. He's a communist.
And has he been on Fox News since? I mean, has he been banned from Fox News
I
for
haven't
saying that or
paid
something?
attention. I think he came out later and said something bad about welfare, and he was welcomed back in. But
Oh,
Honestly, that's the only guy they will have on Fox News that will disagree with them. Somebody
he's
who's
supposedly
so
an
freaking annoying.
economist, isn't he? Supposedly an economist now. That's like saying that Dr. Keith Abloh is actually a doctor. I don't think so. I don't think he's a. I don't think that counts. And going back to what we were talking about with body language, it just makes me think of, him, Mr. Dr. Abloh, trying to be a body language expert and looking at that. And I don't know if I really buy it all that much, but apparently Roger Ailes does. And
Yeah.
I'll agree to a point that
And the
image
media does.
matter, but I think the facts matter a little bit more, and I think we should do a lot more. The news should actually, to go back to the original point, the news should actually do their job and actually fact check the people they have on. I'm sick of the false equivalence, and I'm sick of people not calling out other people on their lives when they come on their show. And surprisingly, CNN has actually had a couple of good people that would actually challenge that. I mean, you remember Soledad O'Brien. She was really, really good at challenging that kind of stuff. And we want to see, people like that continue. We want to see that trend continue of challenging people on, on their bullshit.
Right, the media should be a source for people to go to find what is true.
Right.
The facts.
Facts
Can you imagine
matter.
if you interject
That-
truth into the system and honesty? The fucking universe would blow up on major television.
But that's the thing. But we do
Sometimes
have some.
I think it needs to blow up.
We do see some of that. Like there was that's the great thing about the internet is if somebody does the right thing in the media, just like if somebody does the really, really wrong thing in the media, it will end up on YouTube and it will be watched over and over again because that's what people actually want. Like keep it real, like they're
Yeah.
trying to entertain us with like by basically becoming like the Fox, CNN, and MSNBC are basically SportsCenter and E! News put together. Like that's what they're trying to go for, but people actually do crave like actual reporting.
Right.
I mean, go look at the views that are up on YouTube of the interview with Jesse Ventura on Crossfire. I mean, you see a lot of the more favored interviews and so forth, and reporting. You see it on the internet.
Yeah, when there's actually things happening, people want to watch.
Right. All right. So I can agree with that. I mean, preferably since Yeah, I may have a little bit of a bias on this one, but I think we should definitely, I mean, new media is the way to go.
Yeah.
You know, the internet media, because we don't have that problem. We try to stay as close to the facts as we can, as possible. Sometimes we miss, but it's all about how the facts that we have access to. We try to do our best to keep it honest and to report to the best of our ability and to give our opinion as well.